Hey, it's Paul Ramsey, and I want to talk about how you create content, the creative process, right, for stage hypnotism. Now, I like to have periods of time throughout the year where I update my show. Now, one thing that makes me different from other stage hypnotists that I'm pretty proud of is early on in the game, I would hear the same feedback from people over and over again. When I went to a school for the first time, I'd say, well, why'd you bring me? Why'd you pick me? And they'd say, well, we used to use this person and we loved him or her, but they've really just been doing the same show for about 10 years straight now and they haven't done anything new, so we wanted something new. I heard that enough early on that I told myself that I would never let my show get stale. I would never let my show get old. And so I have these periodic update benchmarks kind of throughout the year. And right now I'm actually doing a really big overhaul, whereas a lot of hypnotists will have one show and maybe they change a bit here or there. I've challenged myself over the next 30 days to actually retool my 2 existing shows and create 3 separate hypnotism shows. And so here's what I've come up with. It's pretty fun. Now I work in the college market, and so the other day, as part of my beginning process for creativity, I was just brainstorming ideas of ways that I could update and ways that I could do something new. And what I came up with is the idea of doing, let's see if it's on here. Yeah, it might be hard for you to see, but so the first thing I came up with is currently one of my shows is basically this. It's a pop culture show. So the music in the show, the skits in the show, the bits are all based around people and songs and things which are currently culturally popular with American college students, right? And so that's great, and they love it. And I'm not gonna change that format. I'm just gonna update it. I need to update the music, update the characters, update the conceptual. Not the concept stays. Update the filler for that show, okay? But then I thought, people love nostalgia. Nostalgia is a huge part of consumerism in America. If you look at now, the biggest buying power group in America right now are baby boomers because they've worked hard all their life, they've made their money, and now they're retiring and they want to enjoy themselves. And this is why you see all of these retro cars, the new old Camaro, the new old Mustangs, all those, the kind of rebirth of the muscle car in America, or even things like for scooters, scooters that look like the old-fashioned Vespas are really, really popular. It's that nostalgic thing of, 50 years ago, that's just what a modern scooter was. But there's all this stuff where making new things that evoke people's nostalgic response to what was old in their life that they really enjoyed when they were younger is popular. And so college students, even though they're young, they're no different. They have nostalgic moments as well. So, retro show. How do you build a show where the music, the characters, and the people are all evocative of the nostalgia response in the audience, the college student audience, right? And then the third option, this is born purely out of listening to my clients. I probably get half a dozen requests every year for a superhero show. People say, could you do a superhero show? And finally I said, all right, fine. I'm going to build a third option for my clients. I'm going to build a theme show, and that theme is going to be superheroes versus villains. So not the whole show, but the majority of the show is going to be built around creating superhero versus villain moments in the show, and we're going to work on that. So, those are my 3 shows, right? Now, how do you populate those shows? How do you come up with a concept? All right, there, just did it, brainstorm, 3 different concepts, all right? You might have any number of different concepts, but then how do you populate that show concept with actual material? I like to think of it this way. First of all, I like to think about, and I hope that you guys can read this. You may be too far away. I apologize. I'll say it. Characters. I think that one of the ways in which I think of hypnotism on stage differently than a lot of other stage hypnotists is that your opportunity as a stage hypnotist is to transform your volunteers into a cast of characters, right? So if you can buy into that model, you can certainly choose a different model, but I'm sharing mine with you. This is how I usually think about populating content. what characters am I going to use to make this show come true, right? So let's say we're working on the retro show. We're going to do this, all right? Retro show. Current college students, 18 to 22, means they were born between I believe it's 1994 and 1990, right? It's 1990 to 1994. So that's what you're looking at. So 1990 to 1994. That's your target audience, right? And in this case, I'm working the college market. That's where I do most of my work. I do corporate stuff and high school stuff and other stuff like that. But the bulk of my work is done in the college market. I want to make these clients happy. I want to make these people have an amazing time. I want to rock their world when we do a show together. So if you grew up, if you were born from 1990 to 1994, that means I think of it in 3 segments, all right? If they're 0 to 22, basically that's 7-year segments, right? So what did they enjoy from the time that they were 0 to 7 years of age? What did they like from 8 to 14 years of age? And what do they like from 15 to 22 years of age, okay? So, 3 different segments that we can target. Now, the third one, you know, they can still have a feeling of nostalgia from something when they were 15, 16 if they're 22. Yes, they can. Because their lifespan is short enough that that small number of years actually seems like quite a while ago to them. Whereas today I'm 42. If you go back 4 years ago for me, it doesn't feel, 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it's a while ago, but it doesn't feel as big for me because of the larger scale of my life as it does for a 22-year-old. So anything that gets them back to 15, 16 years old is going to actually have the potential to evoke a nostalgic response with them. And that's what I'm looking for in this retro show. So I want to find out, basically do market research, and I want to find out what was popular in kids from 0 to 7 through the mid-90s. Right? If they were born anywhere from 90 to 94, then you're looking at mid-90s up to the turn of the millennium. And then get into the early aughts and look at what they enjoyed when they were 8 to 14 years old, right? So, characters that we could do for that, right? For these kids, these young people, that means, from what I've looked at so far, you're looking at things like when they were really little, SpongeBob was really big. Dora the Explorer, really when they were really little, Teletubbies, what else? I've got a list I already made. I was trying to not go over and look at my list. SpongeBob, Dora, Teletubbies. Well, you get the point, okay? There's a segment of things that they consumed in the first 7 years of their life that were popular with them. If we move on to their tween years, right? They get to be basically from 8 up to tweeners. Then you're looking at things like Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, maybe something like, there's that show iCarly, I think, that started for some of them when they were in that age. The Disney shows, Disney Channel, really big with a lot of these young people. So you can go back through and look for like Disney channels and characters from shows like that. We all get used to really thinking of like how much people consume Netflix right now, but Netflix in its big, powerful, making their own TV show incarnation really doesn't fit them at these earlier years. This is more now as adults they've been used to. The last few years is where all that big stuff that we think of, Orange is the New Black and all that stuff. Well, not a lot of children's programming came out of that initially. So it's starting to now, Amazon Prime, Netflix, stuff like that. And they're consuming that kind of content on their tablets now. And today's children, 0 to 7, certainly are. But this particular cohort, not so much. It was a little bit, they were a little bit early for that. So we want to look at that. Characters like cartoons, TV shows, then we go into, now of course these are also singing personalities, all right? So we look at that kind of stuff. And then you might want to look at like movies, what movies were really popular, particularly since they were young animated movies. So I'm guessing, off the top of my head, I haven't looked up movies yet, but I'm guessing something like, switch colors again to keep me separate here. Finding Nemo probably was in that range. Pixar had to have, Pixar's always got something, so I'm gonna put a question mark there, and I'll go back, I'll look up what Pixar movies were big then, and I'll just keep drilling deeper on this stuff. I'll just keep drilling deeper and deeper until I have a whole list of characters, until I literally fill this page, this entire page, with characters that I could potentially pull into my stage show. Then, once I have that list of characters, I'll start looking at how could I actually create a skit, a scenario in which, under hypnosis, the people on stage become those characters. Because here's what you're looking for. You want to give them an opportunity to take the vast storehouse of information that they've naturally accrued through their entertainment consumption and then translate themselves into these characters, right? They've spent, if you pick the right character, they've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours listening and watching, and even maybe when they were kids, imitating these characters already. So you want to get them in a place where it's easy for them to transform. You're not going to ask these people born in 1994, you don't want to ask them to be Elvis Presley. You don't want to ask them to be Richard Nixon. You don't want to ask them even probably to be Michael Jackson, because it's just not their cultural reference point. All right? But if you can find the ones that are their cultural reference points, where they have consumed those entities, when they've consumed those characters, because even though these are real people, Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, in some cases, they still are a persona. They're a character in the consumption mode that these young people were consuming them in. So they've got the way they walked, the way they talked, the way they danced, the way they moved, right? The way they looked. They can take all that on to a certain extent, and they can reproduce it on stage to the delight of the audience, who, even though they're not on stage with them, the audience grew up with these things too. They're from the same generation. And so they'll resonate with them, and they'll love that, and it'll be great for them. So, start out first with characters. If you like this video and you want me to keep going, let me know, and I'll take you through the next step. Thanks for joining me. I'm Paul Ramsey.